recording, and I am actually going to turn it over to Ren Bjordal, who has become a very regular presenter here for us on the AT Office Hours. She's an SLP for the Grand Rapids School District, and today she's going to be talking about PODD. So I will turn it over to you, Ren, and I'll just click through the slides as you're ready.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, you can go right ahead to the first one. Hi, Pam. Hi, Angie. Thanks for joining. So we're going to talk today about PODD, and if you click again, it's the Pragmatic Organized Dynamic Display. And now that I'm seeing this, I think it's actually Organization Dynamic Display, but I tend to say organized. I'm not sure why. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that, and I'm going to kind of outline what the meaning of this is. So if you go to the next slide. Whoops. All right, what is PODD? So it's an AAC tool used for communication primarily, and the PODD stands for pragmatic. So this is the way language is used socially. And then organization or organized is words and symbols are arranged in a systematic way. And I'm going to show you some videos about how that works. And then the dynamic display piece. And that's just we're changing pages or we're navigating through the display to access that organized language. So for PODD, it can be a book or a device, and it contains symbols or words. Sometimes it's like phrases as well, not just words on their own. And generally, this has been designed for people with complex communication needs, but I have seen the benefit with a lot of different types of communicators. And really, it is partner assisted, so the partner is going to support the communicator in the communication. So caregivers, family, friends, support workers. And I just wanted to touch really briefly on this was created by a speech language pathologist, Gail Porter. So if you want to do more research, she is out of Australia. And her main purpose for creating this was to have communication that could be used all of the time. So not just in certain settings or certain activities. She wanted something that was accessible all day, every day, whenever the individual needed to communicate something. So you can go on to the next one. So why use PODD? So there's kind of 4 primary reasons to use PODD. The main one is, like I said, to communicate all the time. So something that can help communication breakdowns. It's constructed of core vocabulary, which is those words that really work in every situation, and then that fringe vocabulary as well. So words that are specific to the activity or environment of a situation. And then what I really loved about PODD too is that it develops the use of language, but it also develops that understanding or receptive portion of language. So I've really seen kids even respond to the use of PODD book when they're having behavioral breakdowns. It helps them understand what's going on. I know that if you work with children with complex needs, when we're upset or emotions are heightened, sometimes we're not understanding verbal communication as well. So to have the visual piece, I think that's really supported a lot of students. And then the 4th one is really just being able to choose messages that are suited to specific situations. And that kind of goes into that fringe vocabulary, the vocabulary that's specific to a situation or routine or event. So types of PODD, I'm going to go kind of quickly through this because I want to show you some examples. I have a few videos. The first and original type of PODD is a direct access communication book. And there are a few different designs. You can start with one that's as small as each page would have, like, I think 6 icons, and it goes up to, I think, 72. So you can kind of see these are some different examples. The first 2 pictures are the same. I think it's 20 per page. But I did put this top picture on here. I'm pointing like you guys can see me point. The top picture there has the tabs. That's how you would navigate. And I have a pretty good video later that I'm going to show of the navigating the book. But I'll just kind of say this, if you've ever used communication system on technology, you would basically be doing that navigation manually. So maybe on a device, you would touch the button and it would pull up another page. In this book system, if the student or yourself selected an item that needed navigation, then it would give you a number and you would turn to that page. So I will definitely show you a video of that. So becomes more concrete for you. But that's why this is partner assisted, because the adult would generally be in charge of that navigation piece. I say adult, but really it depends on the client. I'm speaking more from the school perspective where we would be working with students, but this obviously is a system that could be used with people of all ages. So just the communication partner would be navigating while the client or individual is helping express their needs or wants or ideas. Okay, I'll briefly go through a few other models. The next one, alternative access pod. What's really great about pod is they've really given a lot of opportunity to change it and modify it and make it very specific. This one is a book modified for visually impaired students, so maybe a CVI client where it has the high contrast on the pictures. I've also seen some where the background is really dark and the pictures are light. It just really can be individualized to your student. And then electronic versions. So this is an eye gaze version, and this is the Tobii Snap that they have a pod page set for. This is the Dynavox touchscreen, and then now they have the iPad app, and I think you can also get it on a Chromebook. So there's a Microsoft version as well as an Apple version of the app. On these screens, it shows the Snap core page set, but you can add, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about that, you can add the pod page set to the app. And I want to say, like, the app itself is only $50 for the main Snap core, but if you want to add other page sets, they kind of run 100, 150, which is still pretty inexpensive for AAC when you think about it. And then let's go on to the next one. Here's like a more retro version of eye gaze. So you would watch the client's eyes, and where they're looking is what they're selecting. So instead of a computer looking for the eye gaze, this would be the communication partner's job to interpret the message. And then the partner assisted scanning. I have a video of this too, but in this situation, the communicator is unable to control their body movements in order to point, and they may not have any verbal communication. So the communication partner would help them navigate the book. So they would list the items. This is generally, I think you can individualize it to your client, but generally what you would do is it would be set up in columns. So you'd have columns like this, and you would scan the first column and read the 3 items. So this one is I, you, uh-oh. If they wanted one of these 3, they would indicate, like, yes, I want this column. And then you would read them slower and wait for a response. The student I worked with in the example in this video, he uses his head to indicate what he is selecting. But others might use a verbal or vocalization. They may have a yes, no response. It's going to be really individualized. But if they don't indicate they want one of these 3, then you'd go on to the next column. So it is a little bit time consuming, but I've seen some really great success. And I'm hopeful that you will be able to see that in the video that I attach later. And then group pod. This is something I've experimented a little bit with, but haven't gotten into it. This is more of the classroom model where either the speech therapist or the resource teacher, or maybe even a teacher in a general education classroom would have a book on them, and they would use it for communicating throughout the day with many students. And it's just really such a great modeling model, where you're kind of using it for all students to have access. And you're also modeling for that receptive piece to help with that understanding of language as well. Yeah. And then I know I had some questions about making AAC kind of part of the routine. And this isn't specific to PODD, but this is just some of the things that I've really done in general to try to support that carryover and use throughout the day. If you work with students, you know that you may only be with them for a short period of time for those direct minutes. And it's so important to have communication available and to practice it throughout the entire day and all the routines. So the main thing is have access to it all the time. Have that system, whatever it might be, available. Training staff to model and prompt them to use this. I think this is important for all staff. So the expectation obviously is on the speech therapist and the resource room teacher, or maybe special education teacher, depending on your school's model. The paraprofessionals who are going to be working with that student, and ideally really any adult that might come in contact regularly with that student. I've also done models where I would provide the therapy during some of those daily routines to help practice and also work that training into the day so you don't have to set aside separate times to do the training. I've started with things like snack and lunch. Food is very motivating. Morning meeting is really good. And any type of transition. And I'm going to show you too on the book how this is organized based on routine, because when you navigate, let's say we want to do this during snack and lunch, when you're navigating to kind of the food or eating page, it's going to be all the different types of language that you would use in that situation or setting. And actually I can even just show you, although I'm really tiny, but this is the front page. This is going to have kind of those core words. So you have stop, hurry up, my turn, your turn, more, done, look, help. But if what they need to say is not in this core page, they can say, I have more to say. So I have more to say. This isn't enough for me. And when they touch this, it has a number 2. So then I would navigate to that. And then they're given a lot more options. You can talk about liking something, not liking something. We're going to go somewhere. I want an activity. I want to tell you a story. All these different types of options. So let's say they want to eat. We would say, I want, which would take us to an activity page. This is where I tend to start because it tends to be the most motivating for kids and more concrete. Then you have a bunch of activities. There's the food one right there. They would select food. And it gives me another number, so 18. So I'm going to look on here. I'm going to find 18. And here is how it's systematically broken up into kind of a social situation. So here is the options that you might use during eating. Thank you for making me bigger, Julie. So you can see there's food or eat, and this would navigate to a page that has different types of food. Some of the ones that have more options will be separated into like fruit, vegetables, meal, snack, that kind of thing. Then there's a few core words on here. So more, done, wait a minute, yummy, yucky. They can express how they feel about what they're eating. They can request something different. This is set up based on a lot of those principles of core and fringe vocabulary, but it is also editable. So if your student needs something different on here, you can change that. So hopefully that gives you kind of an idea about how you would navigate the book in real time. And like I said, I always like to start doing that modeling for the student and the staff in those routines. I'll often start with one-on-one therapy just to, make sure that this is the right option for students. But then I like to really bring it into that generalization piece in the classrooms. So what else was I going to say? I think I just said model, model, model. That is the biggest part of anything. Model without expectations. That's a really big thing. You don't always expect the student to imitate you every single time. You're going to need a ton of modeling and repetition. Some kids will start doing it right away. Some it's going to take a little time to understand the concept and work through it.
Hey, Ren.
Oh, go ahead, Melissa.
Can you just talk about the oops square?
Oh, yes, this is actually, and Melissa and I started using this together. So this is actually one of the things that made me more comfortable with using AAC. So, oh my gosh, I have a tape issue. Hold on. I created this book myself, so I had to tape okay. Real life, everybody. So every single page has this cute little yellow oops. And what really is great is that if you get yourself navigated to the wrong place and you're like, well, this doesn't have what we need, you just say, oops, let's try this again. And you start over and you try it again another way. And I think not only does this make it just more accessible to yourself, it makes it more accessible to the student and to the support staff. Because let's be honest, if you are a speech therapist or a resource teacher, you're going to have a lot more opportunities with something like this. But like paraprofessionals, it may be their first experience using something like this. And so to make it just kind of feel less intimidating, I think that oops symbol has been really helpful in that way. So let's say I got myself navigated. I'm just going to pick a random page. Oh, somehow we got into objects. but what I need is not on here. So I would just say, oops, let's try that again, flip back and start over with the navigation piece. So is there anything else, Melissa, you wanted to add to that portion? Is that good? She's probably busy. That's fine. Yeah, and then I just said the next part I think was the group. I think another option, which has worked well with this system and a lot of other AAC systems, is to really work with the staff and potentially doing like co-teaching to provide those models and really supporting that receptive piece too with the visuals. So
this is another, when we talked last week about using the centers, this is another time that we incorporated it with the centers too. So Ren would model it and then the staff would go, and even if a student wasn't necessarily using the pod book, they used it with us, with the group of particular students. And we learned that the kids were sometimes better modelers or better facilitators than we were. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, they saw that they were getting their information out and their needs met, so they would be motivated to use it. Okay, I do want to get to the videos because I want to make sure that if there's questions that we can kind of ask. So the first case that I have is this child has Down syndrome, and she does use verbal communication, but it's highly unintelligible. And so I think at this point, she's maybe in first grade, somewhere around there, first or second grade. This is not her first exposure. She has used the book several times, but you're going to see me navigate the book with her. And then you're also, could you start it at the beginning, Julie? Somehow there you go. And I have cut this because I wanted to cut her name. I kept saying her name, so it might jump just a tiny bit. I did cut her name out of it. And then, yeah, you'll see me navigating the book. She's going to request bubbles. I'm going to show her all the options and she's going to request bubbles. But what's really neat about this is you'll see the navigation piece. You're going to see me doing a ton of modeling. And then you're going to see some other language skills because she starts to combine them to create sentences. And I just kind of go with it. I just kind of model them for her to expand sentences. So for this student, you know, she is verbal, but this is just really supporting me understanding what she needs and helping her practice some of those verbal skills. So you can go ahead and play that, Julie.
All these options. What do you want to do? More to say? Okay. You want an activity? Toys or games? What did you pick? Bubbles. All right, let's turn to the bubbles.
You can see me navigating. It can take a little bit of time, but.
All right, I have little bubbles and I have big bubbles. Which one do you want? Oh, the big bubble. All right, so who's gonna blow? You or me?
Me.
Okay, so you can say, I'll blow. Big bubbles. All right, you blow those. Oh, you want little ones? Okay, who's gonna blow the little ones? Who's gonna blow them? Can you show me? You or me? Me. Okay, say I blow little. Wow. Wow. Wow, you popped them. Oh no. Oh no, they popped. There was a lot of little ones.
Now I'm just modeling some descripting terms and comments for her to use too. And that's what I think is really neat about PODD. You can see with this bubble page, she has the requesting. There's an all done or finished to cease the activity. It can also be used for a refusal. We can describe or request through big and small, lots of them. Wow, to comment. Uh-oh, that's another comment. So you're getting tons of different communication functions. It's not just requesting. It's not just saying more and done. We're also working on those other language concepts as well. For her, it's also a receptive skill. So we're working on learning those different terms and using them. But for a lot of kids, it's going to mostly be a tool to express themselves. But you can also see that I use it as a therapy tool to practice those concepts as well, which is probably why I love this program so much. It's just flexible in so many different ways. The next video, I just want to keep moving. The next video is a non-speaking autistic student. He does verbalize like, sometimes for yes, but he says the same thing, or he says hiya for like hi and yeah. So, but that's really what he has for verbal communication. He will sign, but he really just signs more, which you'll see in the video, and done. Sometimes eat, but so very limited independent communication without any type of device. This is only 2 weeks after using the device, so I'm still modeling a ton. I did get permission from the family, so you will hear his name and potentially see his face, but they said they were really comfortable with sharing because he has been so successful, and they just have seen the benefit. They use it at home as well. Anything else? Maybe I'll talk more after, but let's just take a look, because I think seeing it in action really makes it more accessible. So this is Titus.
Oh my gosh, I like it. You want more? Is it fun?
So he's telling me more, but I still want to model that he likes it.
So good. Chat words, I saw you say more with your hands. Welcome. All right.
Is that the best volume, Julie? Okay.
Watch out. Oh my gosh, I like this. I like it. You want more? Do you like it? Yeah. Is it fun or great? You want more. I think it was good.
So I just modeled and then moved on because he was telling me more.
I want ball. Okay. Oh boy. Let's go. Oh! Watch out! Ah! Are you gonna get me? Oh man, did it go in too far? Do you need help? Yeah, help. Okay. Go! Ah! Oh, more Titus. I like it. It's funny. Want it? Okay.
Then he independently said, I want.
Oh! Whoa! Oh no! Titus, can you help me? Where's ball? Oh.
You're going to see me use it receptively here again. I want him to help me find the ball.
Where is it? Where's ball?
I'm hitting where. Can't hear it. But you see, as soon as I hit the button where, he started looking. So that receptive piece, I think, is really huge with this program too.
Oh, you look.
Was that the end? Okay. In this video, you see me using a couple different of those displays. The main one I was trying to model was him expressing that he liked something. So you would hit the I like, and it would open all these options of how to describe how you like it. Is it funny, fun, good? He liked to hit good. At the time, that was kind of his favorite term. Now it's awesome. We've moved on to awesome. And then the other one was the chat word feature. So what I really, really love about the device is, number one, I don't have to navigate anything. The computer does that for me. Number two, when the chat words option, which is that core vocabulary, is accessible on every single page. So no matter what activity you're doing, he has access to those core words, which is more, done, help. He has a hurry up, because he always tells me to hurry up. stop, go, those terms that we use so frequently, they're accessible on every single activity page. So whether we're working on a page like the bubble page, or we're working on those I like options, there's going to be that chat word feature. So he can always access those quick communication, high power words. But what I like about this video is that you kind of see that receptive piece as well. And so we're kind of thinking about, really briefly, the access models are pretty different here. This student has pretty good ability to use a touch screen. He's able to isolate his finger and touch without his hand hitting the screen. So it's working really, really well for him. The previous student, she doesn't have as much control. When she pointed, her whole hand would be on the book. When I used an iPad with her, it just wasn't successful because we kept navigating to the wrong pages, and she just didn't have the fine motor skills at the time for that. So the book was more successful for her. So I think just taking into account, no matter what AAC system you're using, like what is that student's sensory needs, physical needs, visual needs. We kind of talked about with the pictures. Okay, let's do the last one really quick, and then hopefully we can answer some questions. It's almost 12:30 already. So this student is a student, his primary diagnosis is CP. I also got permission from parents to share about Gilbert. He has taught me so much. And what I want to kind of say about this is Gilbert has limited mobility with his hands. He has no verbal abilities as far as speaking. He can make vocalizations. He primarily communicates before he had this device by signaling yes or no. His yes, you will see in this video, is putting his head up, back, and looking up at the sky. His no is either pursing his lips like that or looking down. So you'll be able to see that. It's not clear in every single one, but I always acknowledge it verbally. So hopefully that will be present. So this is an example of auditory scanning, I think is the official term. Partner-assisted scanning is another way that it's been expressed. I'm also using a touch screen. I could use a book with him. However, he also has CVI, so he's got visual impairment, cortical visual impairment. And so although his eyes work, his brain doesn't always process the information. And what we know about people with CVI is that they do process blue screen light better than they would like a picture either on a page or a laminated sheet. So that's why we chose the iPad, even though we could have used like a book. So those are another example of taking the child's needs into consideration when you're choosing a system. So you're going to see me give him options. This is when we were really early on. He can choose from a field of 6 with motivating activities. So I'm using about a field of 3 on the device. And I have modified the device for him. So there's only 2 columns of options and then an oops button on the right. So, okay, let's play. And then hopefully if you guys have questions, I can share.
Here's what we're going to do. Let's pick activities. Do you want hug, rest, music?
So he selected that column.
Yes, you want a hug? I saw you look up. Big hug. That was a squeeze.
He likes to pressure.
Let's go again. Do you want hug, rest, music? Yes. You do? Okay, let's see which one you want. Hug? Yes, you want a hug? Here goes. Squeeze! You like that hug. That's a squeeze hug. Let's go again. What else should we do? Hug, rest, music? Yes? Okay, do you want a hug?
He pursed his lips to say no.
We're going to take a nap? Okay.
And then he selected rest. See how he puts his little head down?
Ah, wake up!
When he wakes me up. It's a little game we play.
Sleeping. You turkey. Let's try again. Do you want a hug? Yes? Okay, here it goes.
I forgot to scan that time.
Oh, that's a good hug. Let's see what else we can do. Hug?
No.
Yes. Music? Yes! Okay, let's do some music.
So you can see, you know, especially when he really knew what he wanted, you could physically tell. That last one in particular, music is his favorite. So, and these are very familiar activities that we've done even before having the device. One of my challenges with him is that finding things that were motivating and interesting for him to do, because he can't manipulate objects. And most of what he likes is being read to and listening to music, obviously some deep pressure. And then I added that imaginary play type thing with the pretending to fall asleep and or the turn taking, like waking up and that kind of thing. The only other thing that I think he has two other activities. I'll put a ball on we'll play ball, which is basically me putting the ball on his tray and him making me pick it up. He hits it off and then I have to pick it up, but it's very motivating. And then the other one, he likes vibrating toys. So you can see I made a couple mistakes. I forgot to scan a couple times, but he did know the options. He has them kind of memorized, which is another thing that PODD does a really nice job of, is once you've created the book, all of the items are in the same place every time. So when you're doing auditory scanning, you want to make sure that you are scanning it in the same order every time. Because a student like Gilbert, since he can't always process the information visually, he really relies on that auditory part. And once he's learned the patterns, he's a little bit more accurate with his selections, because he can kind of predict what's coming next and wait until he gets there. Like he knows eventually book is coming, but he has to, wait to select it. It took some time and practice to get there, but this is also a year ago. So now we are doing quite a bit more. He's starting to express something's wrong and talking about positioning in his chair, getting a break and laying on the mat, those types of things. So much information, but let's just keep going. So hopefully you guys can ask questions. I don't think I have much else on here, if anything.
I'm going to click out of this video and go back to the slideshow.
I think the last slide is just some resources.
All right.
That's correct. The one thing I will talk about with the PODD book, I created these books probably like 4 or 5 years ago now. So the one negative or con to this is that it is a CD-ROM where you would get the files for all of the pages, but it has to be used through Boardmaker. So you have to kind of have access to both of those things in order to print the books yourself. I was able to print a few books through our print shop. It was a bit of a process, but they were able to spiral bound a couple books specifically for students. So I was able to get that special ed funding to help do that. I think they ended up being about $90 a piece, but that might have been before I purchased the paper. I purchased some of that water resistant paper. Lamination is just really thick. You could see in that first video, turning the pages of laminated pages is a lot harder than like this book here is a little easier because I have those like coated pages. So they're a lot thinner. But you can read about all of that. Novita Tech is an Australian company that originally helped produce these books. It has a lot of information on there. That's my main source of information for this. Dynavox Snap, that's the touchscreen program that I use. I think there are 2 PODD for iPad programs. I'll be honest, I've used both. The other one, I can't remember, I think it's through Compass, does not compare to the Tobii Dynavox. It just is not as editable. It doesn't work as quickly, and it's not as visually usable. We Speak PODD, this is an amazing, amazing YouTube resource, and it's all linked there. But this is a family. The mother and father have adopted several children with multiply complex needs, like wheelchair bound, trachs, just like all the different things that you would make communication more complex. And she uses PODD with most of them, and she talks very candidly and shows many examples. I was telling Julie, there's some examples of them using PODD at Disney World. I mean, it's just like the down and dirty, like how this works, what does and what doesn't work. So that's where I learned a ton of things. And if you guys have ever worked with AEC, Practical AEC is a great blog. I've learned a ton of things about classroom use of AEC from there. And then the Spectronics is a company that makes the CD-ROM for purchase. I want to say the CD-ROM is $270, but it has all of the different books, like this book picture here of greetings. It has 20 per page, but I think it starts with 6 and it moves up through, I think, 72. So you have all the different books and they're editable through Boardmaker. And I put my contact in case I can support you, because that was a lot of information. Okay, questions?
How's it been going training others? Have you had people open to using it, or have you had to do some convincing? Because I've had that experience.
I've had both, mostly positive though. But I will tell you that the main way that I've gotten a lot of buy-in was having a resource teacher that also saw the benefit in it, which was Melissa at the time. But now I have a couple new ones here who have also used it because we've changed buildings and Melissa got a new cool job. And that was a huge part because they helped with that carryover and that teaching and just being really positive about it. The other thing that I really needed to do was just be in the room and be the one to introduce it and introduce it with the kids present, not just showing it to them during a training. I have done that. I don't find it useful really at all because they're just like, oh, okay, like what is this tool? 100% I would say being able to be in the room, even if it's a couple days a week, even one day a week is great. Trying to fit it into the routine so that it doesn't seem like you have to plan. I think that's really huge. The planning piece I think is overwhelming for a lot of teachers. Like, oh, I have to plan an activity. No, that's not the point. So talking about that routine and modeling it during those routines. I think transitions is a good one. Students who are struggling with transitions, this book has a really good let's go feature. So and the touch screen is even better to show, but it has a let's go feature and there's a whole school section of all the places in the school to go. And I think that's helped a lot just to show like the receptive piece and how it helps with the behaviors and the learning in those routines too. And that helps get buy-in for sure if you can help minimize behaviors too. The other thing that Melissa and I did with behaviors was helping the kids learn how to express how they're feeling in a moment. And the this tape is causing me a lot of trouble. The something's wrong is so good because it like literally I'm angry. And sometimes the kids just pointing to that angry page de-escalates the situation because they have a word to put. And that I didn't know before I started using this. Melissa probably knew, but would you agree, Melissa, that this was a big tool for those kids, especially the autistic students, having them been able to express what's happening in that moment? That got some buy-in, I think.
The other part that I think that got buy-in too is having the open conversation at the IEP meetings with the parents.
Yeah.
So then it was working with, we had one for school, and then sometimes I would photocopy a black and white book so the parents had the same thing at home. So then we could generalize at home and at school. But that was because it's a assistive technology, that was an IEP team decision, and it had to be documented in the AT section. And I do want to say that Ren has learned a lot of lessons in that regard,
Yes.
only because it's not something you just want to print on normal paper and put in a 3-ring binder. So that's a whole nother can that Ren has gone through to figure out what's the best way to do it and the easiest and the most cost effective. So that's a whole nother podcast.
Yes. The other thing that I will just say that I'm learning right now with my student using the touch screen is that we didn't teach him to use the book. We went straight to the iPad. The benefit of that is that he had access to so much information right away and he's using it independently. Like I would prompt him, but then he can navigate it himself. The drawback was last Monday, his iPad didn't work and we couldn't find the tech person to help us. And I had to try to use the book with him and he had never experienced it before. So I do recommend having exposure to both. So in that situation that the technology is not your friend, which happens a lot, you have something to kind of fall back on. And luckily they are navigated in the same way. It's just a little bit more time consuming and you need a partner. So I don't know, did that answer? I talked a lot. But.
Yeah,
I was actually going to, oh, sorry, go ahead, Pam.
I was just thinking, I mean, I've been looking at this for a while and I have a couple students on iPad with Snap and I have one on an i10 or is it an I-110 or something, or T110, TD110, okay. I-110 is what it is. So if we already have the Snap app, it looks like PODD is part of it and you can just download it, or is that an additional?
It's like an in-app purchase. It's $150 or $149.99.
Okay.
To be exact. Depending on and this has been a huge hurdle because we have to go through our regular tech department versus like a separate SPED department. And so what we had to do was just use SPED funds to purchase an iTunes card.
Okay.
Purchase it. They had to like unlock the iPad so we could make an in-app purchase. it was a process. That was how we did it. If you want to just trial it though, Pam, you can use your personal Tobii Dynavox account as a speech therapist, and you can access every single one of the page sets. And there
Okay.
are more than just PODD and Snap Core. So those are free. You can model and practice and see if those are an option before you, number one, spend the money, but number two, go through all those hoops to purchase.
Right. Yeah, it looks like you can start a trial and you can download and you can use a trial for 60 days. I have one here that I think we are ready to move on from what we've already programmed in there. So I think this would be a natural next move for her. Okay. But yeah, I mean, we don't have time to put all that stuff in there. So if you can get it already organized and just tweak it, that would be nice.
Yes. And I have taught this student in particular, the one that you guys saw, that if we don't have something in our device, he only has to wait about 30 seconds for me to add it, because it is that easy with all the board maker symbols loaded on there, to just add what we needed in that moment. And he's starting to learn, like, oh, if I just wait, which is not easy, like Miss Ren is going to add this for me. So that's also like kind of another skill that we've been working on with him, is identifying what we need on this device. And for him as well, his parents have purchased this at home. And so it does sync between the two. So any changes they make, any changes we make, you just sync it every morning, little button at the top, and it updates those changes. So I did have to have a pretty lengthy conversation with Mom about the importance of keeping things where they are and only adding like to those vocabulary lists, like the types of food or his favorite movies, those types of things, rather than changing like those core words or anything like that. But now she understands, and it's been great. So
I do see that on the, I was just looking on my own iPad here, and there is a TD Snap Lite that you can get. That I'm assuming that's a trial thing, that you don't get all the access, but
that's yeah. Have you downloaded it, or you just saw it right now?
I actually just downloaded it.
Okay.
But then there's also the TD Snap ACC for $49.99.
Okay, so I have the light version on my iPad, which I've signed in with my account, and my account through Dynavox has been like certified that I'm a speech therapist. So on my Light app, I have, like I said to Pam, all of the page sets to trial with students. That's kind of what made it so easy for me to just start trying these. And I tried Core with him first, but he's not at a sentence building level right now. So he wasn't doing like I want ball in the categories of words. He wasn't ready to understand like how words are categorized. PODD puts it into the situational or the environment or the activity. So when he chooses bubbles, all those words that he needs for bubbles are right there. I think Core is set up more, or Snap is set up more for people who understand language a little bit more and can build sentences. At least that's my interpretation from when I've used it with students.
Okay.
But anyways, yes, sorry. Light, I digress so much. Yes, Light is, I think, generally for providers to use, but I could be wrong on that. So. Anyone else have input on that might know? I don't know. Okay. Are you a speech therapist, Kristen, or a resource teacher?
No, I'm the special ed coordinator.
Oh, you are.
Yes. So I'm.
Yeah. I feel like I love my ASHA number in to get that account, but I can't remember for sure. So that might be the case there. Is that true, Julie? Okay.
I'll look more into that.
There might be other providers who can do it. I'm not sure. Maybe OTs, or I can't remember, but maybe school psychs, even though that doesn't quite make 100% sense to me. But
I did a PODD training prior to me becoming coordinator when I was doing a severe to profound DCD room for quite a while. And I did the PODD training, but then got moved to a different location before I got a chance to actually implement it and use it a whole lot. So, but I absolutely loved what I saw, and I've been trying to kind of introduce this to our IASC group for a long time, but it's never quite gotten off the ground. So Pam, I'm so glad that you're in here, that we can, and Melissa too, that we can kind of take a look at this and possibly open it up to more people in our co-op. So
Yes, and something I forgot to say is, I kind of complained about making the books and those hurdles that it is. There are a few companies out there that will print the books for you. They are, I want to say, between 80 and 120. I can't remember. In fact, one is like a school district in Michigan that they just know they can make money because they've already got the setup in their print shop. But I think all you would need to do is designate like which of the books you want. And then if you want to edit it specifically for a student versus like a classroom use, what I've done with the ones I've made is I'll just literally print the one picture I need and tape it in there over top of something. So that is an option if you want, if it's just easier to get started by ordering a couple books and like, okay, we have them. If they work, then we can investigate other ways of adding to it. I'm not sure if that might help with the hurdle. But
it is a problem. Like I've been trying to I got some switches for one of my students. It's on an iPad, and just trying to figure out which programs work with it, and then give you a huge long list of apps that you can use with a switch, and some of them are free. Well, then you have to have access to their app store, and then you have to set the count up for them. Then you have to be able to get into their email and answer a password, and you also need a phone number. So I'm at the point now of trying to get a Google Voice number for this student on her iPad so I can just start.
I agree.
It's so frustrating.
It is so frustrating. And that is something I've been thinking about. And I've even talked to Julia about this. Like, that is where I see a need of having someone that is like a tech person that's specifically for special education, because I think having it separate, or even a liaison, however that looks, I don't know, having it separate is really challenging, because especially a speech therapist, but probably anyone who works in the schools, finding that time to spend. I mean, when I set up this one device, I think I spent 4 hours with the tech guy in my room. And it just was like, I don't have 4 hours. I had to reschedule all that entire morning with my kids, which is not really feasible most of the time. But I wanted to prioritize it. And I think that is a huge hurdle. So, as a special ed director, that's like probably just something where if you can support, just coming from someone who works in a district, like how do we support people in that way? Because the tech piece is definitely a barrier. I think a lot of people put it on the back burner because it's overwhelming and it's stressful. And I don't blame them at all, because I felt that way before. So anyways, that's more of just like, we need to problem solve that, because I don't want that to be a barrier to these kids getting these devices, because you can see in these videos, all of these videos, the kids are just starting and they're already using so much. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm excited. I mean, I've heard about PODD for so many years, and I've, obviously done a lot of different pages for kids, both high and low tech. And I think this makes sense for some of my kids currently. So thank you.
Yeah. And what I've also learned is a lot of my kids will come into kindergarten, because I work elementary, and I don't do early childhood, but they come in a lot with that understanding of PECs, which I think is a nice foundation, but it can be so limiting as far as communication functions. You can mostly request with it, right? Maybe that's all you can do. I haven't used it in so long, but my feeling is we have to get past just requesting. Like, that is not enough. In my opinion, it's not really acceptable. I want my students to be able to tell me when they're bored. Gilbert, the day he told me that what I was doing is boring, I started crying, because I was like, you are telling me this is boring, and that's amazing, and I should be offended, but guess what? I'm super excited, and I called his mom. Because that is just so important to me, that they are able to say, like, my foot hurts, or I don't want to do this, I need a break. Every other kid has that opportunity. And I'm going to start to cry. Anyways, that's my problem with systems like PECs. It's just, it doesn't have enough, and they want more. They need more. So soapbox.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Pam. If you have more questions, please let me know.
I will. Bye.
Thanks so much, Ren. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording, but I can't thank you enough for doing this presentation. Again, you've been such a regular presenter, and they've all been so good. So